and also as a former teacher, when September approaches, I don't know about you, looks like we've got some teachers in the house. We do. Well, this segment is for you. Or maybe you want to run away from this segment. We are preparing to go back to school.
Yeah, we are. But parents, you've got some homework to do because we've got kids to get ready and school ready. So please help them. As teacher, parenting writer, my very good friend, Ms. Kate Winn. Hello. So we've got kids ready and everything, but really, how are you doing?
Great. Well, I'm taking kindergarten this year.
Whoa.
So, yes.
You were 2-3 before? You were grade
I was grade 2-3 last year. Yeah, so something new. I'm excited.
Good for you.
Mm-hmm. This is going to be exciting. All right, so some kids, this can actually cause, after-school jitters can actually cause some anxiety as well. So for older kids, this can happen as well. So what can parents do right now to start to ease some of this?
For little ones, I always say there's a picture book basically for every worry. So you can start there. Lots of great back-to-school books. But whether it's for the kids or the high school kids, a lot of the worries are about the building. What's it going to look like? And am I going to find my classes? How am I going to get around? So if you have any opportunity to take advantage of orientation and get into the building, even if your child's switching schools midway and there's not an official orientation, try to make an appointment to get in and check out the building. That can help ease a lot of jitters. And kids also worry about friends. Who am I going to play with? Or the old kids, who am I going to hang out with? If they have any chance to spend any time this week with someone who's going to be at school with them, that can help give them a familiar face when they start school and also kind of help to have somebody to talk to about their own worries.
Yeah.
A new year, inevitably, Kate, means new teachers. And sometimes, rumors abound and parents start talking. And then it's, I really don't want my Becky to be with so-and-so teacher. Yeah. And then they try, parents will try to get their child switched. How do you feel about that, and how should a parent go about doing that if they're not comfortable with the teacher their child has?
I think you should step back and think about why you want to do that and whether you're not giving your child enough credit to be able to handle the situation. Sometimes rumors about teachers aren't true, and even if one wasn't a great fit for your neighbor's child or even one of your other children, doesn't mean that they won't be for this child. And I know I've seen cases where parent requests can kind of have a domino effect and change all the class list planning that's had a lot of work go into it. So if you can, just try to have faith.
Try to, amen.
Yeah, it's great advice. What the teachers are saying.
True. Communication is so important between the educator and the parents as well. So as a parent, when and how do you establish this communication link? And what's the best method? Is it emails? Is it phone calls? Is it face-to-faces?
So I think the onus is on both the parent and the teacher to try to get that communication rolling. I always like to think about the bank account theory of relationships, where you want to try to make some deposits so that you have a balance there in case the time comes where you need to make some withdrawals. So if there's any kind of compliment, anything you can do positive at the start of the year, that's great. I find that notes and phone calls are the most common. Some teachers use email with parents and some don't. It can be very convenient, which I like, so I'm good with it. You just have to remember teachers can't always reply outside of school hours, and also save those more heated issues for actual conversations, because sometimes emails are misconstrued.
Yeah.
Just about everywhere you look right now on television, there are commercials about and what the kids need. $461 is the stat we found. That is the amount that parents will spend on their kids to get ready for back to school. Isn't that something?
Yeah.
Unbelievable. It's a whole lot of money. One of our viewers, Jill, wrote about this and wanted to know, Kate, how can you go about this and do it and spend wisely? Save money as you get that back to school stuff.
Well, my daughters are going into grades 5 and 3, and what I had them do was shop the house before we went out shopping. I wrote little lists of things they would need, and they took their pencil cases around and found tons of things in new condition that saved us having to buy anything. Also, if you don't have a list from the school yet, wait, because you can save a lot of money by just seeing what the teacher actually requests. Some supplies are provided by the schools, and some things your children just don't need at certain ages. Plus, you can get some better deals if you wait until the fall as well.
Yeah, that's a good plan as well. Yeah, that's good advice. Okay, so back to school also means inevitably for a lot of students homework. And what you're, yay or nay, depending. So you're saying that language is important here, because instead you're saying to parents, instead of saying we need to do our homework, it's time for you to sit down and do your homework. Talk us through that.
Absolutely. So at any age, cuddle up and read with your child. I mean, that's one thing. But when it comes to assignments, I think right from the beginning, they need to know it's their responsibility. It's great if they can work in a central spot where you can be handy to, of course, pop over and help and support. But I would hesitate to pull up the chair every night and give them the impression that it's your work, when really they should take responsibility.
Teachers agree. All right, so now you're doing the homework and you're thinking, wow, I really think my child is getting far too much homework, maybe too much for their age. How do you broach that topic with the teacher?
Well, I would say wait and make sure it's a pattern and not just a one-off, but I have an embarrassing story of my own to share. From the first year I had my own class, it was a grade 4 or 5, and back then I thought that the math textbook was the Bible and you just followed it, day by day. So I taught the first lesson and figured, well, I guess I'm supposed to assign all the questions. And then I got a note the next morning from a mom saying that it had taken her daughter an hour and a half to complete the work, and perhaps that was excessive for grade 4, which, yeah, it was. But I never would have known if she hadn't told me. I would suggest that anytime you write a note like that, sometimes it's helpful to wait till morning. It may soften your tone, and the note may be better received than if you're writing something in the heat of a moment.
All the teachers in the audience
You have a very receptive audience with all the teachers today.
Okay, what if, Kate, you notice that your child is having difficulty in a particular area? At what point do you step in and think, okay, my child needs extra help, my child needs tutoring? At what point, how can you tell?
So first, make sure that it's an actual struggle and not just a struggle of working with your own child at home. So another story, I had a mom write me to say that her daughter hadn't completed her work the night before. She had tried to help her. She had no clue how to do it. There was tears and there was fighting and they were up late. And it kind of surprised me because the child had seemed to understand the work the day before. So I called her over and said, do you know what you're supposed to do here? And she told me. And I said, could you finish this right now? Yep, and she did. So sometimes it's just a case of working with your own child. But if you and the teacher agree that there's actually a struggle and that the child needs more help than the school can provide, definitely look into remedial programs, or you can also just hire an older student or even a teaching grad looking for work to kind of do homework, help, and sort of those day-to-day things. You can see quick success that way.
That's a brilliant idea.
Mm-hmm.
Brilliant. Interesting. Yeah.
And for me, I'm bilingual. I speak English and French. I'm qualified to teach English and French. I want my daughter to be bilingual as well, so we plan to put her in French immersion. We've got that option in this country. What's your advice to parents who are thinking, is that right for my child?
So certainly a great program. I think there are some misconceptions out there. For example, some people think that you have to speak French in order to put your kids in French immersion. And it actually was designed for children whose parents aren't French speakers. So of course that wouldn't hurt. And really kids from different backgrounds or even different academic abilities can be successful in French immersion. There's logistics to think about too. We decided against it for our girls because it would be a longer bus ride. And we live in a small community and wanted them to go to school with their cousins and the kids they see at church. So that was kind of a factor for us. But also don't put too much pressure on yourselves when your kids are young to make these decisions. For me, I went all the way through school in English and I just did core French, which is the most basic level of French instruction. But when I got to university, I loved it so much that I wanted to major in it. And so there I was in classes right along with the French immersion grads. And I actually ended up teaching French for the first few years of my career too. So there are different paths, different ways to get there.
We cannot end this segment without talking about lunches. Back to school means making lunches, right? It does. It does. So a two-part quick question.
Yeah.
Quick question here. Okay, so for the lunches, as a teacher, do you judge us as parents? What kind of parent would send their child to school with X, Y, Z?
You know what?
And are there red flag items when you are doing that judging? Because we know you do.
Yes.
Are there?
You know what? I care if kids have a lunch. Other than that, I promise I'm trying not to judge. I don't want you judging me, so I'm not judging you, for one thing. But I think each teacher probably has their own little red flag things. For me, full-size cans of pop, because little kids do not finish them in one sitting. They want to keep them. By the end of the day, they're a mess all over something. Another one is when kids come up to me and say, you need to heat this up for me in the microwave, because that's just not something that we do at our school anyway. So that's another thing too. And also when I see things in the lunch pails that have just gotten crushed and smushed and crumbled, basically because I know 9 times out of 10, the child's going to throw them out if they've lost that visual appeal. So final piece of advice would be invest in good lunch containers.
Oh my gosh, that's right. This is so educational for sure. Hey, good luck with your kindergarten
Thank
class.
you.
That's going to be exciting. And thank you for these great tips.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you. Time for a short break. We'll be right back.